last week about the lost opportunity tool, those dials, right? We're doing a series on the dials, and we just want to make sure that everyone understands what they were built for, how to use them, what are some of the cool things that you can do to use them for. And this one is about the first dial again. Last week we were talking about that first dial, the lost opportunity tool. You know, which items do I have out of stock? This is going to be in addition to that, and how we can not only use that tool to make sure that we have the right items in the right quantity at the right time, but also to make sure that we're cleaning up excess data, that we don't have a bunch of data from 5 years laying around from a supplier that we may not purchase from anymore, or dead, discontinued items, that sort of thing. So agenda today, we're talking about why inventory cleanup is important, how the lost opportunity tool makes inventory cleanup and easy, and it's a good way to find those obsolete items and start deleting them. There's a few other cool little things that you can do with that field, with that viewer, so I'm going to go into it, and we're going to check some of those out, and we're going to go into the demo a little bit, just show you how it works and stuff, how some of the tips that I use to navigate with it. Shouldn't be too long. We're going to take about 10, 15 minutes here today total. So it should be pretty quick and easy, just talking about how to clean up inventory. And for those who don't know me, or this is your first time of the webinar, thank you so much for giving us your time. We really appreciate it. You know, you guys are the reasons that we continue to do this every week, and it's really nice that we get some live motion here, and a lot of people come and watch it. So we really appreciate it. Thank you guys for your time. For those who don't know me, my name is Chad Klein. I'm an account manager here at Paladin, and I've been working here for about 3.5 years or so now. Okay, so why is cleaning up my inventory important? If I'm not ordering it, selling it, or anything, why do I even care that it's there? Well, the inventory is always changing, as we always know, especially if you're in a commodities game with any steel or lumber or something like that. New items are constantly added, and the old items are constantly being discontinued. So over time, your inventory database can become bloated, become very large with all these excessive items that are just kind of hanging out in our inventory ocean that don't really belong there. They're old items. We're never going to look at them again. We're never going to sell them, order them, receive them, anything. They're just excess data that's kind of bogging the system down. And all of that extra information is affecting the speed that Paladin can perform, running reports, things like that. You know, when you click in your inventory tool and you see these dials pop up, there's going to be a little spinning wheel for a second that takes a second. Well, if you want that spinning wheel to be very quick, deleting some of these items is a good thing to do. Keep your ear or your thumb on the Paladin pulse we are having a tool that we're coming out with called the Swifter. I think it's a service that you can purchase from Paladin that will enable you to go through and clean up your inventory. We've got some more information on that as well. So that's another good resource, another good tool that we can help. If for some reason reports are taking a long time or these dials are taking forever to load, it very well could mean that you have an excessive amount of data for whatever reason hanging out in the back that we may not need anymore. We can use some tools to clean it up and kind of get the system working a little bit better. But these obsolete items, excessive data, not only is going to make things run a little bit slower, it's also going to clutter it up. You know, when I pull up a report, I want to see the information that is pertinent and relevant, not drowning in a sea of information that isn't relevant. So it's good to make sure that we have everything cleaned up so we can do our jobs quickly and efficiently and just pull up the data that we want to have access to right then and there. A best practice, of course, is to remove the inventory clutter to improve business efficiency, just like we were just speaking there. Okay, so the last opportunity tool is the first dial here. If you want a little bit more information about it, we did a webinar last week or a couple weeks ago. Now we're doing them every couple weeks as opposed to every week. That one we went into it pretty detailed as far as what this first dial does, not in how you can use it to clean up inventory per se, but how you can use it to make sure that you have the correct items at the right time and we're not losing opportunity. So for a little bit more on that, watch that webinar. It's right there in the inventory module. You'll click it. You have to have the correct permissions. It's a permissions-based thing. If your employees, if you do or do not want your employees to have this, you can go into their account and unselect the Paladin dashboard. PaladinNsight is what we call them, these dials here. So You can turn that off if you don't want people to see it, or you can turn it on if you do want people to see it. All of these dials here are powered, of course, by the Paladin market-driven inventory management system, which is, of course, the series of algorithms that is remembering every little bit of information when it comes to the selling and moving of an item. And then it's pushing all of those variables through its analytics and creating a prediction as to what we need when. And these dials are driven by that mathematical process happening in the background. So just know that, they might seem a little unicorn zone of like, how could it possibly know this magical information here? It knows it through a very, very complicated set of mathematical equations running in the background of Paladin. Okay, so how does this tool make inventory cleanup really easy? Well, you want to click the magnifying glass. You open the Lost Opportunity Viewer. That's going to bring us to this little window right here. We can see it all, and I'll go into Paladin here in a few minutes so we can all see that. So this is going to show items that are out of stock. If we want to go right to left here, you can see the lost profit of an item, the lost revenue in 4 weeks, the weeks out of stock. We're going to look a lot today at the weeks out of stock and the lost revenue. So these items on here are items that are in your active inventory, meaning we've looked at them, sold them, ordered them, received them, breathed on them, interacted with them in some way in the past. So they're in our active inventory, and they do not have any outstanding purchase orders against them. Paladin's not going to say, hey, this is an out-of-stock item, when it knows in a different area of the software that you're in the midst of ordering that item. So the items on here should not be on a purchase order, or are not on a purchase order. Okay, so in right to left here, we've got a few, kind of a zoom up of some of these columns. Again, I'm going to go into Paladin here in a few minutes, and we can look at it a little bit more in depth there. But over in right to left, we've got our lost profit. That is the predicted revenue loss if the item remains out of stock for the next 4 weeks. So I'm not going to have this item for the next 4 weeks. We're going to lose whatever's in that lost profit column. Right next to that lost revenue is the predicted lost revenue for the item for the next 4 weeks. The next column over, the weeks out of stock, that is the number of weeks that the item has been out of stock. Pretty simple there. So 55 in my little example over here means this item's been out of stock a little bit more than a year. We haven't ordered it or had it around at all for the last year. And then finally, we've got 52-week quantity. That's the number of weeks the item has been out of stock, or excuse me, the number of items sold in the last year, right? So if we've got, it hasn't been out of stock, it's been out of stock in the last 55 weeks, and we have sold 0 in that amount of time. So no stock, no sales, probably a dead item. You can click any of these columns to organize it up or down, or to organize it by that column. So if you want that column to kind of take over and organize it by that column, sort it by that column, you can start clicking and kind of organize it that way. So as you go through the list, click the magnifying glass next to the item to take it to the inventory detail. It's kind of cool. When you're done, you can press escape. And when we say inventory detail, that just means bringing up the item in the inventory module. Just like in your purchase order, you have the little F5, recall item. It'll bring up the item in the inventory module. Same exact thing. You click the magnifying glass here, boom, it brings up the item in the inventory module. Simply hit escape on your keyboard to go back to right where you were before. Kind of slick and nifty, making sure that you're navigating quickly. When you find an obsolete item, you can click the item's delete checkbox. You'll notice that there's a little delete over to the left-hand side of this view. You can delete the item right then and there. You've got one or more items selected. Down at the bottom, there's a delete button, or F1 will work as well, and that will go ahead and remove all of your items from your active inventory right at that time. Okay, so items that are out of stock and predicted to no longer sell or were never sold may be obsolete, right? If we're not ordering them, we're not selling them, we probably don't need them to have them in our system, and they're probably cluttering up reports and things like that. So to find these items, use the column lost revenue and sort it. So click on that one. It'll bring up the smallest number at the top or a blank value. There'll either be a blank there or a 0 for a lot of these items here. So the lost revenue value of 0 predicts that the item will not sell if it's in stock. If you buy it, it's not going to sell. We have no data saying that this item is going to sell. If it's blank, if there's just not even a 0 there, that means that we don't have enough information to give you an answer. There's not enough sales history to predict the revenue loss. We don't know. So if you have a very new database, just added the item, something like that, that may be the reason why there's no analytics going on there, because we just don't have enough data, and we would rather give you no data than a really inaccurate, kind of muddy guess at what the data, what true data could be. So as opposed to that, which is not a good thing to do, we just leave it blank. There's not enough data to give you any information. So start with the first item. If you delete that, if you determine that item is obsolete, select the delete checkbox. Then just work your way down the list. And then once you get to the bottom, F1, delete. If you're trying to delete them very quickly, you can use the space bar. That will select and deselect that checkbox, that delete checkbox. You can hit down space, down space, down space, down space, and just delete a bunch of them very quickly that way. To view items for one supplier only, you can limit it to one supplier. There's a limit to supplier right at the top. You can hit the little down arrow. There's also F2 that gives you the ability to export this list to an Excel spreadsheet. In that Excel spreadsheet, if you see a location of -1, that means that the item location is not available. Not that it doesn't have one, it's just unavailable. We don't have one on that item. Okay, so how do we use this here each day? Always a good thing. You know, once we get really good habits of doing this, we probably don't need to do it every day. We can do it once every couple of weeks or something. Open the lost opportunity viewer, sort the list to show the smallest revenue loss at the top, and then review those top 10 items. And remove the items that are obsolete. You're going to find a bunch of those items in there that are moot point items, items that you never sell, we haven't sold in a long time. Paladin doesn't think that we could sell them if we had them. Let's get them out of our inventory, out of our way, out of our face. Of course, if you have more time, you can always review more items. And this is a pretty easy, quick, clean way to keep your inventory clean of inefficient clutter. You know, it'd be really hard to start sifting through thousands upon thousands of items to start figuring out, okay, what are the items that I'm not selling, not buying, that needs to just be out of my way? We'll probably never end up doing something like that because it's just really cumbersome. So use this tool to go ahead and clean it up a little bit. We'll pop over to Paladin real quick, and let's just make sure that everybody knows what we're talking about here. Pardon me, I'm going to move this guy over. There we go. Okay, so here's Paladin. I've got this pulled up right here. We're talking about this first style, lost opportunity. Now, this is a demo database I've kind of pieced together from a Frankenstein store, so I don't have a ton of data going on here. You can see my list is pretty short. I would imagine that in a real environment where Paladin's been running for a few years, this list could be much, 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 much greater than this. So here we have at the very top, we can limit this to a specific supplier. If we want to do supplier-specific cleanup. Over here, we've got our little delete checkbox. Check it out. Here's our magnifying glass. If we hit that, boom, just brings me to this item right in the inventory module. I can either hit cancel or escape on my keyboard to bring me right back to this screen. The magnifying glass or escape on my keyboard, and here we go. We can go back and forth pretty quickly. Over here, you know, we got location, department, part number. Again, location -1 isn't a real thing. That means that this item doesn't have a location on it. It's unavailable. 52 plus week quantity. This right here, we have sold 32 of this item in the last 52 weeks. In the last year, we've sold 32 of these. Been out of stock 21 weeks. Lost revenue of 0, lost profit of 0. So organize this by lost revenue here. Let's bring all the zeros to the top. Here we go. Paladin doesn't think that we would be able to generate any money on these items, even if we did have them in stock, is what this is saying to me right here. And look at this. We organize this by weeks out of stock. We can kind of bring some of these to the front here. You know, these two columns are really married together as one. If we can see we don't have any lost revenue over here, we also don't have, we haven't had this item for the last 35 weeks, well, probably means that this is a discontinued item, or maybe I've personally decided to stop selling it, and it probably should be deleted from our inventory. So if I go through here, I can take a finger, select spacebar, and then just do the down arrow, space, down, down, down. See, I can select them very, very quickly doing it that way. Or unselect them very, very quickly doing it that way. So it's kind of a cool way to navigate this screen a little bit here. You organize this by 52-week quantity here, see how many sales we've had in these items. You would pay attention to some of these items right here that we've sold a whole lot out of in the last year. This has been a very, very heavy moving item. And we haven't had them for 4 weeks. You know, we're out some money because of that. So make sure that we're not only using this tool to clean up inventory, but also to use this tool to make sure that we have the proper stocking levels as well. And that's what we did the entire last couple weeks webinars on as well. Okay, guys. And that's all I've got for you today. Let's see. Does anyone have any questions? Bring up my little questions pane here. Excellent. Doesn't look like we have any questions, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. It was a pretty quick and easy one, as I promised from the get-go. This is the second of a few more that we're going to be doing on each one of the dials. I think we've pretty much exhausted the first dial with this webinar being completed now. So I think the next one we'll be doing on the next dial, and the next dial, and the next dial, and so on. So stay tuned. We're going to be doing a lot of good stuff on these dials. These dials are extremely good. And the whole point of these dials is to answer the questions that the store owners don't necessarily know to ask. That's the whole point here, is we want to give you guys the information that we think is extremely relevant, actionable, and important for you to know, look at, and respond to. And so we're just kind of blasting it in front of your face, and with these webinars, we're making sure that everybody knows how to use it properly. So as always, thank you so much for your time, everybody. Stay tuned for your Paladin update viewer. You'll see when our next webinar is coming along. Please go ahead and register for that one and sign up, and we'll see you then. Thanks so much.